Good day, world. Welcome to Be in the Moment. Today, we are delighted to be together with you as we meet with Todd, educator at the BitcoinSV.Academy. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
For sure. So, Todd, you are from the land down under, and I'm fond of saying good day. How do you say good day?
Good day.
Good day.
Or do I have a particular greetings, or are you asking how I say good day?
Yes, more of the enunciation, but
Good
it
day.
sounds like a
Yeah.
good
Yeah,
day.
Good day.
good day. Also, I'm expecting him to say, hello, mate.
Yeah.
Yes.
You
Good
kind of
day,
just
mate.
ask people how's it going, but you don't really expect an answer back. You sort of, you bump into someone in the shops. Hey, how's it going? But then it's very weird if they, started to tell you how they were actually going. I think.
So true. Same here in Marietta, Georgia.
Yeah.
People will say, hey, y'all. And then oftentimes people will greet and say, how are you doing? And I always say, fine, thank you. But you don't have to. Yeah. How about you, Krez? How do people greet in your hometown?
Here in the Philippines, like they say hello, but then they're not really waiting for the response. So you bump into each other and you say hello, and then you're actually literally past each other. You don't expect them to answer you back. Just okay, I'm fine. Well, hi, hello, hi, just that. Yeah, seriously. So yeah, there's like a default answer at school when you ask how are you, and then our teacher will tell us what to say. You should say I'm fine, thank you. Right? So just the same in your location, Rory. So it's just a matter of default answer. But good to know,
Yes.
that's right, that they see brighter
Universal.
side of life.
Right.
I have a
And
question, Todd, about land down under.
Yeah.
How does the flash goes? Like clockwise or counterclockwise?
I don't think we have the same toilets as you guys. That like you guys kind of a full bowl and then it drains out, whereas ours is like quite low water and then it dumps all the water into it to flush it out. So it's quite chaotic in there, and there's not really you know a nice spiraling vortex going down. But if you filled up the basin or something to have a wash of your face or something like that, I think it goes clockwise down under.
Oh, maybe some of the audiences will check it out after watching this.
right.
If it goes clockwise
Try
or
on the airplane.
counterclockwise.
Yeah, but that's a good point, Krez, about the plumbing. So plumbing is the essential infrastructure, right? And it seems like maybe in this sense it's not global with the water pipes. Is that true?
I'm not really sure with what we have here. I should check it out as well.
Right. So what brings us all together is this concept of a global system that is a plumbing for the information of the world and the economy of the information of the world. So we three all were gathered together at the Bitcoin SV Academy, or the Bitcoin, what was it, Kraz? You were the host.
Oh, they call it BSV Academy, education team, Bitcoin SV Academy. So please correct us, Todd.
Yeah, BSVA or the. So I think
Yeah.
the hack, like where we met, was put on through George. Like George sort of curated that, George T.O.C. Samuels, and that was just sort of under the Bitcoin Association moniker, I guess. But then I work with in the academy itself, and Cress is sort of on our team, and then she's also flutters around and does some other things within the association itself as well.
Right. So there we met in that virtual classroom, the workshop. It
Yeah.
was the BA workshop on ChatGPT as a tool. How can professionals and creatives use this tool here in the moment? So that was fantastic. We were all pulled together to even create apps And that was where I first met Todd. And so, Todd, I'm so grateful that you could be in the moment with us today. And yes, how did you discover this ecosystem? What led you here into BSV? I know you have a background in education already.
Yeah. I got into Bitcoin early. I remember I was like, I knew something was going to, things were going to be coming along the pipelines, and I wasn't a computer science background, but I was subscribed to the programming subreddit, just thinking like, oh, I need to keep an eye on that. There's going to be something, coming out. I remember when I was a kid, I told Dad, you should invest in Google when it first came out. And he's like, what's this? And I'm sort of 10 telling him, and then he probably should have. So I'm sort of thinking, I need to find one of those things for myself, and I remember when I read an article about Mike Hearn, I think had just developed a Bitcoin client or a Bitcoin wallet or something in 2011, and went and was like, what's this? And, dug in. And at that point, yeah, it was like, I remember reading the white paper and, glossed over all the calculations and stuff, but I went, no, this makes sense, and I got pretty passionate about it for a while there, but didn't feel like I could really do much because I didn't have any technical experience, and there just wasn't really good resources for learning about it. And it's sort of, I was interested, and I obviously bought a few, and got my first ones when you could still buy it with PayPal, and then they shut that down. And then the next ones I bought on a Second Life exchange. So you had to buy the Second Life Lindens, and then you could go on to this Canadian exchange called VRWOX or something like that, I think. And swapped my Lindens for Bitcoin, and I think lost 20% in trading fees or something like that. But it was still under $1. And I think I bought it, and I bought some and then was just fiddling around with them, and then it went up to like $30, and everyone's going, it's a bubble. So I didn't buy any, and then it crashed down to like $20, and I went, oh, I'll buy some now. And then it crashed down to $15, and I was like, oh, I'll buy some more now. And then it crashed down to $10, and I thought, I'll buy some more now. And then it crashed down to like $2, and I'm like, maybe I don't know a thing about investing, and I'm just a complete idiot. So then I didn't buy any more and sat on them for, I don't know, a year and a half or something. And then I remember telling some of my friends who were at uni, and they were doing, finance and stuff. I was like, oh, I chucked some money in this, and it's doubled in a year and a half. And they're like, oh, that's really good returns, and kind of, I don't know, lived it up for a little bit. At that point, that was like 2013 when it started going bananas on Mount Gox, that sort of first time, up to like $270. And I was just I'd sort of finished uni, and I'd worked for a couple of years at the uni as a anatomy demonstrator, and working in the lab there. And then I went traveling for a little while, and it was pretty strange feeling to sort of go traveling with X amount of dollars, and then it just kind of is going up more and more. And I went to do a working holiday snow season in Canada, and then went, I don't really need to work this holiday, I can just snowboard instead. And just had a good time, and then came back. And I think then I came back and just started working casually and stuff, and didn't really get into a career or anything for a while. And it just kind of petered out, and I kept thinking, oh, I'll get some more, I'll when I get a chunk of cash, I'll buy some more. And didn't really until 2016 or 17 or something. But I think with that whole scaling debacle and just seeing how political it all got, I kind of lost a little bit of interest there for 2015, 16 kind of thing. Because I didn't feel like I had the ability to assess the arguments either way. I just sort of thought, at the beginning, I thought, oh, of course it's going to scale. Why would it not? And then it seemed like the majority argument was that it couldn't scale. but it didn't really make sense to me, and I didn't understand their arguments, but it just moved along. But then I like went back, to the Bitcoin subreddit and found that you couldn't even have like a discussion about, big blocks or anything. And just in that time, I'd kind of went into, not researching, but just looking into all the dodgy stuff that's going on in the world and seeing the, corruption and the sort of the lies and stuff. And I just smelled a rat when I was in there, and you couldn't say anything without getting banned. And you're like, I was a contributor in this place when there was like under 1,000 people in the Bitcoin subreddit, and now I can't even make a contentious comment in there without getting banned. So I just thought, oh, maybe it's, Bitcoin wasn't, it was just the, the cat out of the bag, but all the other things that are coming along might be the, the answer or something. So I kind of went and looked at not every other one, but a majority of the ones, and like, yeah, got hoodwinked on plenty. Like, thought that they, had what they said they did, but they didn't. You find out in the long run. But what they were saying they had, each of them had a little fragment of then what BitcoinSV has. So you sort of, I wanted, something that allowed someone to have access to their own or control of their own data. So I had, I was interested in an ICO that my friend had ran on trying to create a shopping app that you could have access to all your own data and your preferences, and then the marketers would pay you for access to that data. And I was like, oh, that's a really, inversion of the paradigm. And then there was another one that was, torrenting on the blockchain. I was like, oh, that's really interesting, the way of, monetizing data transfer. That, what else? So yeah, like a sort of really a protocol for like really having lots of extensive interoperability. Another one that boasted that it had like, a new type of, monetized mesh network, then app platform, as well as blah blah blah. And they eventually you keep asking questions, and then they don't give you the answers that you want or that you're expecting, and then you go, oh, this is just garbage. And so I was passionate about, like, I was interested in Bitcoin Cash, but it just didn't really seem like it was, I thought like logic would prevail, and the big block argument, it made sense. But then seeing the way it sort of unfolded, it just didn't seem like it was, getting that traction. But then through that progress, I started seeing Craig talking and going, oh, this makes a lot of sense. All right. And then just kept, hunting for more and more of his content. And then it just got to the point where, you learn enough in that then you go and ask hard questions in some other place, and then you get banned from their chat. So you go, well, that pretty much says what this one's about. All right. And just then only from sort of 20, I think bit before the Bitcoin Cash BSV split, I think you could buy the futures or something on Binance, and just I went, I'm not interested in anything else, and just went all in on BSV. And that wasn't a good financial decision necessarily, but it was a good decision for my brain to just only want to absorb the right information and abandon all the other nonsense, really. And so that was in 2019. Then I just spent a lot of time learning about it, but still felt, I don't know, it was like inadequate to do anything building wise. And I said, I'm going to build an app, and just tried to figure out how to do it, but it's very abstract, and it's kind of, I wasn't doing the right things, like a course to learn web dev. I was just thinking that everything else I kind of had a crack at in life, I just can sort of pick it up by doing it, but developer isn't really like that. But then the academy came along, and I found out, I was like, oh wow, amazing. So I was doing the courses there, and then found the careers board, and they were looking for someone with an education background that had the knowledge in Bitcoin was like desirable, but they wanted more the education background. And when I worked at the uni, I worked with subject coordinators and was sort of like a lead tutor, and we developed like virtual resources and stuff. So I guess that made me
yes, ideal
the right candidate. And just I sent off a resume and a cover letter. I just started a business as a handyman because I'd moved up to Noosa, and didn't really have, we just sort of moved quickly, and it was during the what was it, 2021, and we just moved up here. And I knew something would just work out, but my wife wanted to be close to her mum, and there was other health stuff and that going on. So then started my business, and then a few months into starting that, I was moonlighting, doing the academy courses, trying to learn as much as I could, and saw that job, and then ended up working as with the academy. And I'm no longer the odd job Todd, the handyman. But I've got all my
handy.
I've got my flyers and my business card.
Sorry, what's that about flyers?
Oh, I got all these flyers printed and business cards printed, and wrote a jingle. But then I was flat out instantly with that work. But then this work I was way more passionate about. So I just I still get people ringing me like a year and a half later, just finding my name somewhere and saying, hey, can you fix this for me? And I'm like, nah. I'm just doing this now. I don't really want to go and fix your gate or something.
He's busy.
Yeah, that's my yeah.
Yeah, congratulations. Amazing. Yeah, I just want to, commend you for what you have mentioned earlier, that during the time that you started learning about the BitcoinSV, you said that there's limited materials out there to learn, to read, or maybe those learning materials actually will help you to understand more in depth what is BitcoinSV, right? But then with your participation with the BSV Academy, it's actually a good problem, because it allows you to be part of the history in creating more materials to people willing to understand what is BitcoinSV in depth, and actually create more articles to kind of deliver it to a wider group of people, to say and explain what the technology is really about. And I've seen a lot of articles that you Todd wrote, and those are amazing, and it's gaining so much engagement in the association, and all the products that we have. So congratulations to that, and you are doing very, very, very good job in your department. So thank you so much for being part of it. You're making history. Yeah, literally.
Yay.
I think it's good for outsiders to kind of come in, because if you're a computer science graduate or something, there's a lot of things that you take for granted as assumed knowledge, and you kind of jump straight in the deep end sometimes. But I come through and from an outsider perspective, and I try to, every question I have to ask to get through there, I try to then make the material that gets you over that hump. So you go, well, okay, I asked that question, that other people will ask it. And try it. When I wrote the Merkle Trees course, and I just kept going, saying, okay, I want to know this, I want to know that, like, okay, how does that work? And just kept dredging it all up to hopefully put together something that was comprehensive and satisfied. There was definitely still, it could have kept going, and it could have been more technical stuff, but it was designed as a primitives course, to get you like a bridging course, I guess, into understand the topic enough to then appreciate Bitcoin at a deeper level. But I always keep that in mind for trying to explain things for people who aren't computery. Just I think having an outside perspective gives you an advantage at that. Or
Always.
Yeah.
And I'm inspired that you had sought out and discovered the BitcoinSV.Academy, and then you started taking the courses independently. And it was over the time of this proof of work of your intent and your interest that you then paid more closer attention and discovered the career opportunity there. But
Yeah.
what was it like when you first saw the website and took the first course? I mean, what was your experience like?
Oh, I was like, oh, what? This exists? Yeah, finally, like a source of, information that's just, well, so I did the introduction to Bitcoin theory and design, which is the sort of line by line going through the white paper.
Mm-hmm.
And that one was, really great. It felt doable, and it felt like a lot of the knowledge I had already translated into it, but it was just nice to get some interpretations of the sentences, and realize that you can do the assessment well. But then the one that I was chewing on at the time when the job came up was the introduction to Bitcoin development, and that one just felt really hard. And we've found out through feedback and stuff that it definitely needs reworking, and we've got like I don't know, 70% or something like that of a reworked dev course, but the things keep moving so much. So we wanted to make something that was agnostic to tooling and stuff, because the old dev course has a bunch of unwriters tooling in it and doesn't work anymore. So I think at first I felt like, oh man, this is way harder than. No wonder I couldn't build any applications when this is how hard it is. But then later you find out that even people who are developers and computer science people go, this is really hard and doesn't feel like the best structure or something like that to teach it all. So we're sort of working on that, the reworked dev course, but then just being a part. Once I was a part of the academy, and then get to see the stuff coming out. So Brendan working on things, and Evan and Connor, and seeing what Jake's working on, and Manisha was with us at that point. It was great to just get to be, you get tasked with editing a course, so you're reading it, line by line, going, okay, we need to optimize how that is being said so that we can understand it, because you read something and you go, did I take any of that in? Oh no, I didn't. Okay, what's the problem there? Is it the language? Is it the material? And you kind of analyzing it to make it digestible and hoping that you can retain as many people as possible. I think like with those online courses, there's something like 6% completed them, so
Right.
we want to try and get those numbers up. And
definitely. Now, I took the intro course, and I'm still taking the intro course. It's been a long time coming here.
Yeah.
I was impressed by how you could save it and return to it later. So I do like that about the academy, is that you are going through the course that you've selected, and you're taking the assessment, and then you can always return and it will be there.
Yeah.
So I think that is very good. But as you say, how will I be triggered to go back and complete the course? That is the question.
Yeah.
Yes. And so it must be for many people. I have the best of intentions to complete the course, and yet I still haven't completed it.
Yeah.
So full transparency.
Yeah, I'm also taking the course, the theory for now. My objective is to literally to have that icon on my LinkedIn account that I finished it. So, that's so simple, but no, in depth. What I really want to do is to bring it to Filipino, wider Filipino, to translate it actually in Filipino language, so we can deliver it to majority of the Filipinos here, because some of the items there are very jargon. when it comes to terminologies. And I'm trying to digest it little by little and understand what is the best terminology in Filipino that I can use for such content, so that when we present it to majority of the audiences here in the Philippines, they can easily grasp what is it. So sometimes it is a language barrier actually, because it's English, and Philippines is, we can speak English fluently, but because we have 7,107 islands here, depending if it's low tide or high tide, so we you expect us to have more remote places here, and those places doesn't have full access actually in the internet, or cannot really speak fluently in English. So that's the pain that I want to preach. This is very ambitious, but I know that with BSV Academy and all the materials that they have, we can deliver it to people. The important thing here is the initiative, the idea, and the motivation, the dedication, how to do that. So I'm closely, working with all the items or materials that I can learn from. So when some Filipino out there ask me, what is this? I can, confidently say that this is it, and not the misconception that we have in the space. So with all that you've said earlier, Todd, I just want to ask you, is there any specific skills or knowledge that the students should have before diving into blockchain education or to the academy? Or what do you think would be best background for that?
Probably helps if you've thought about some problems that exist, so that when you're like going through, if you have pain points, that you've noticed in society, in business, in what you're working as, or you might employ some people, or you might realize that the waste management in your neighborhood's lacking or something like that. If you have the tendency to look for those kind of problems, then when you're going through the material, you can see it sort of triggers potential use cases, more so than I think that if you're just wanting to learn the technology without having an idea for applying it to solve real world problems. But yeah, I don't know, like I think people need to understand that you don't have to build like a DApp or something. You can enhance your business delivery through pushing like 32 bytes to the chain once a day, like a Merkle root value for your logs or something like that, or your accounting practices, and you just publish one value a day on the ledger, and you then have this integrity check, that you can leverage that to say you do business fairer or more transparently, or you can sort of expose that to other parties to create a source of like an independent third party source of truth or something like that, triple entry accounting. But yeah, I don't know, because there's so many fields that intersect with blockchain. So I think that it's a bit limiting if everyone only comes at it from thinking about it as a computer science term, because I imagine in 20 years that all universities, I don't know if they're still even running in the same structure they are, but that there'll be blockchain for lawyers, blockchain for accounting, blockchain for statistics, blockchain for mathematics, for science, for engineering, for education, for the arts. You'd think that a student coming through creative arts degree, they could be looking at ways of digitally representing their music, their visual arts. It's going to penetrate into everything. So there's not really one particular type of person that's best to learn it, but other than someone who's looking to solve problems and then can think of ways to apply it to create a solution, and that's a potential business opportunity there.
Indeed. One concept that returns to mind is from an Australian friend I met at the CoinGeek London 2020 conference, and he expressed to me his desire to create some use case for recycling so that there would be incentive with recycling. And I live and work in this idyllic small town square, and there are many Bundabergs for sale. Do you know Bunda?
Like you mean the ginger beers, like the soft drink, or the
Exactly.
Bundaberg, the
Yeah,
rum?
oh, I don't know about the rum. I just know the ginger beer.
Yeah, like they got a whole range of them, like not just the ginger beer. Have you tried the other ones, like the
Lime
guava
bit.
and the passion fruit and the
Ooh, no.
pink
Passion fruit.
lemonade?
That is very popular in New Zealand and Australia, I believe.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So the Bundaberg bottles are glass bottles,
yeah,
and they have the unique pop off top. And so it's really fun. I say, remember to pull it straight up.
yeah.
So these glasses that many people consume are not currently recycled because within the city there is no recycling for glass system.
Wow.
And there is really no incentive to do so.
Mm.
Everyone's busy. You have to just take the garbage out and put it in the designated place. The garbage man will come with the truck and lift up with the truck the entire container into the garbage truck. And then that's it, and it goes on. But if there were some sort of way to tag products, plastics, glass, different wrappings, and so forth, with some kind of RFID that then can be tracked on the blockchain, then with monetization as well within the accounting system, you can not only track the units of recycling, but you can receive an incentive by recycling in the appropriate way. You can then earn money.
Yeah. That's definitely something that's been in my mind. In Vancouver, say they have on the outside of the bins, they've got these rack where you can put your glass bottles and the recyclable things, because they've got I think it's 20 cents at that point in time it was, deposit on the items, when you buy a bottle. But if you have the Bitcoin, then you can have sort of like an escrow or an account that you actually pay more at the time of purchase, but you get it back, when you return it. So then if there's, say you put $1, you buy a soft drink, it's $2, but you pay $3 for it, and you're like, oh, I've just got to look after this bottle and I'll get my $1 back instead of 5 cents. Then, if you're, lazy, slob or whatever, and you throw it out the car window and it lands in the garden, and someone's like, oh, $1. They don't pick it up for 5 cents, but they pick it up when it's $1, and they can go and get that $1 there or something. And at like music festivals, there's been a few times when they've tried to do these like can schemes where they charge $1 more, and then you go and take the can back and you get a voucher. And people don't. At first, people didn't realize they were doing that. So I've been to a few festivals where you're like just collecting so much, you're finding whatever you can. You've got your shirt tight, your sleeves tight in your shirt, and you're filling it up with cans, and you're going back and you're just like, this is a bonanza. And you walk up to the thing and you hand over all your tickets and you get 4 drinks and you realize, oh, I can't even carry them. So you just talk to the person, do you want a drink, to the person next to you, and just give away like a $10 drink, and because you're just like having it for free. But then the next year they go, oh, that didn't work. We got, they changed the scheme and went back to just paying full price. But there's definitely a way in that, that keeping track of the cans that have been sold, having the deposit there, collecting the deposit later, and eliminating the whole need afterwards at those festivals where they don't have those kind of schemes. You look at the end of it, it's just obliterated with rubbish, and they've got whatever, 1,000 volunteers or something, a couple hundred volunteers walking around picking it all up. But if you get the punters to go and take it back, you're like, oh yeah, there's guaranteed there's no aluminium in this mess of stuff here. It might be a couple of cans. That's all back concentrated at the recycling depot or whatever. You can just go and crush it into a cube and take it off, and you didn't have to pay those people to clean up, and you get that crude product there that you can go and sell for money, all you had to do was implement the system that just accounted for it. But it's not all you had to do. It's definitely there's more to it than that. Like it's needs some sophisticated tools really, or a way of on your wristband or something having a chip in there so it's recorded against you or something like that. But it's not an insurmountable problem, and I dare say within 5 years something will come in that front that we'll be like, how do we ever do it without it? And even in like the local town, like there's so many restaurants that do takeaway and they use those crappy plastic containers, and I'm going, wonder how many of them come into this town each year and just get thrown in the bin. Why can't you have sort of military grade stainless steel containers, and when you go to the takeaway joint you receive it and it's logged to you, and you take it home and you wash it, and you might even use it, and it's a useful container, and but you paid a container deposit, but at any point you can just go and drop them back into a place that sort of redistributes them, and all the shops kind of have this stash of containers that are just being reused throughout the whole community. Because they're so abundant, no one really cares that much about stealing them from the shop, or it's accounted for by the being tracked on chain. And you could effectively stop eating out of piping hot food into plastic, and then you're like, oh, this is yummy food with this plastic in it, and then you got to throw the plastic out afterwards, and it doesn't, they crack and whatever else. But I don't know, that's I'd love to see the society that implements those kind of things, and the how different it could be in eliminating the waste, really.
I think that is one of the ethical use case of blockchain. So, there's so many things that we can use blockchain technology to improve humans' life and actually help the environment as well. That's really great. So when it comes to application, because there's so many people out there in the space that really wanting to create an application and build it on blockchain. Now, I want to ask, in your perspective, Todd, is there any unethical use case of blockchain that you can name? Or in what, is there anything that you can think of that blockchain can have a negative effect, or can have negative impact?
Yeah, definitely. It depends on the implementation, and it depends on the the checks and the safeguards that are put in place. Like over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of people that are been fearful or apprehensive about the incoming CBDCs and digital identity and things like that. And rightly so. If they don't know anything about BitcoinSV, like it doesn't register in their world, so they only see the proliferation of all the scams, and then they see that there was over the last couple of years there was definitely a big flexing of state power, of sort of prescribing whatever rules to people. And I think many people are cautious about that and thinking, what does this look like if I have to have my app that has all my medical records on it, and I have to show it to go into everywhere, and then my money comes into that same app and I don't have cash anymore, and they can just turn it off at whim. But I think those situations are probably more likely on those sort of private ledgers or permissioned ledgers, a system where they need those second layers, and there'll be an entity in there that is the controlling agent that gets to view everyone's stuff, but because their logging and stuff exists off chain or on some other network of nodes that they have delegated the rights to validate transactions or such to, it's a very one-way mirror, you know, like, and that's where I think that it is, you know, worth being cautious of. But a properly implemented digital identity solution, like what Craig's been talking about in these masterclasses, you know, you realize that's actually way better than what we currently have, way more secure, way more private. I can only have to reveal the selective values that are necessary to go into a venue that I need to be over age for. I only have to show my proof of age and that my photo matches against that identity document. I don't have to show my address. I don't have to show even my birth date. I just have to show that I am over this age. You know, they can potentially still keep my name in the event that I played up when I was in the venue, and they can use that record keeping that, you know, this 32-byte value is associated with that guy, and then they can keep that for evidence or cross-reference it against another database that they can sort of unmap what that 32-byte value represents. You know, so a 32-byte value is just the digest of a hash. So the Merkle root of a identity document, if you have Todd is one leaf, Price is another, my birth date's another, my address is another, you can construct one single value that represents the individual elements of that identity document, register the address, the hash with, say, you know, the driver's license board or the passport office or something like that. So when you go into a venue, you just show them your Merkle proof for your age, and they can see that, yeah, that hash is represented in the passport office's list of, you know, bona fide passport documents. And then, you know, if I cause trouble there, they can, you know, use the right channels to go to the passport office or to the driving thing and get them to, like, the police to unmask who that is associated with, because they've got a, you know, complete version of that document as well, because they issued it. But everyone else in society doesn't need to see it. So when you have a situation like that, I think that that's better than what we currently have. And when you know, when you can use Bitcoin for tokenizing other sort of instruments, tokenize gold down to a milligram or something like that, you don't need to be a precious metal bug any longer to, you know, if you're skeptical of fiat currency. Currently now you'd sort of go, I'm just into precious metals, but you get the best of both worlds, because you don't have to then rock up to the shop with your silver ounce, you know, and sort of hope that they can give you something to give you, you know, enough to get the $35 worth of value out of it or something like that. You can rock up with your digital wallet and you can pay in precious metals, but for exactly the price that you needed to, and be on your way. So you like, to me, that seems better than the precious metals, and it seems better than what we currently have with the cash. And you combine it with digital identity, it's awesome. But it's takes a while to get people there, I think, to understand the possibilities and to understand, you know, like, that you can have privacy in a digital space, and you can actually, especially once you know, go into the IPv6 world, and you can generate, you know, new addresses for each action and stuff. Like, yeah, there's so the address space is so vast that it's just impossible to, like, surveil in the same way that it has been currently done. So you just, you know, if you're not doing anything, you know, too dodgy, then you're just gonna blend into the numbers. But if you know, over time you've been continuously, you know, embezzling or blah blah blah, the records exist, and you have to be accountable for that. And I'm not afraid of being accountable for my actions. I think that, you know, What do you want to preserve this dodgy system that we've got so that you can keep being dodgy? Like, I don't want it to be more better record keeping, because then my dodginess will be recorded. But if you're like, I want it to be better, I want it to be less dodginess, you've got to be willing to not be dodgy yourself. You know, like, you got to take the step into that paradigm and you know, put your money where your mouth is. And I'm happy to do that. I want more accountability in the world. And, you know, I also understand the technology, obviously, to have confidence going, yeah, when you've got, I don't know, I can't even say the number, you know, 128 bits of address space for IPv6. Like, how are they going to snoop onto my actions on there and realize, oh, this guy, you know, I don't even know, bought a bag of weed or something like that for $100. It's just going to blend into the whole, you know, economic activity. It's not going to really register. But then, you know, if you were regularly doing that, or you're regularly selling $100 of weed, $100 of weed, $100 of weed, those records are kept, and, you know, you've got to.
Then you're a millionaire.
Yeah. Well, you know, you're accountable for that action. But it's also the same turn. Like, if you think that, oh, weed should be legal or something, there's going to be that accountability that goes across the whole of society, means that our political apparatuses and stuff work better. And, you know, if you translate it into the integrity of scientific findings and stuff as well, and you create more evidence-based policies and stuff in society, you'll probably find that many of the things that are, you know, draconian laws or such these days change quicker once we improve our systems for changing it. So, you know,
they can change the name anyway. They can say cannabis or industrial hemp.
Yeah,
sorry, right?
there's you know, the branding perception and everything of it. But I just think that, like, there's no use championing for the anarchy, just because you may sometimes, you know, do like something very petty that might be against the law or something like that, you know. But you actually, you don't even really do it. You just, like, I don't know, I'd easily trade the ability not to engage in petty crime for there to be not the horrendous crime that exists in the world, and, you know, be receiving that immense value and be happy about it in society. You know what I mean? Like, it's
yeah, just to conclude, I think those projects that they're trying to use blockchain in an ethical application or activities, maybe that would be a chance as well to get them caught, because, you know, time is gold in blockchain. Everything is tracked, everything is recorded. So if you're doing some illegal stuff and you want to put that on chain, are you sure? So so better have and use the technology for the benefit of humanity and for the environment, right? So
it's like, you know, this system is super efficient, and, you know, that efficiency, I've heard Craig say once before that, I think he said 16% of all value created is lost to the inefficiencies around fraud. You know, like, so you got your courts, you got the, you know, investigators, you got the police, you got the auditors, you got all these apparatuses that have to exist to make it so that it's not 17 or 18%. So it's like economically valuable to sort of spend all that money to make it only 16%. But if you can put everything onto the chain, or, you know, like everything that needs to be to have these integrity checks and to have accountability, and you can bring that down to, you know, 1.5%, you know, that's like an order of magnitude more sort of GDP that's just spread across society. You have to think 10% growth just for doing nothing, essentially, like keeping things as they were or just better. And I think that benefit is like immense. If you could just continually be growing by not sacrificing things that you had and just having more integrity, retaining more of the output of humans, productive value creation, like everyone benefits from that. And I don't think we can even really conceptualize what that would do for society, and then as well, people are so disenfranchised and stuff these days that no one really, or very few people, I think, are collectively like satisfied with the way things are. And they're super distrustful of society, of government, and of big businesses, and of essentially it like translates to a cynicism about their fellow man, and people start trying to get a little bit more for themselves because they feel like, oh, everyone's out to do that, and you might as well kind of rip someone off, or you might as well, like, I don't know, just trash this public utility or good because you feel that it expresses your dissatisfaction or something like that. And if you change that paradigm where people can demonstrably see that everyone is working together, that when people are dodgy they get caught, and you can start to build trust, you might find over time that starts to really change people's hearts at a deep level, where they have trust in the apparatuses that we have, and they have confidence that we're all working in this collective endeavor together. And they're way less inclined to do that shifty behavior, or to act out against things or rip someone off. And 50 years down the track or 100 years down the track, once that becomes normalized and we have built so much trust and demonstrated the effectiveness and the validity of the technology, it will be it's the kind of technological substrate which you need to transform into those a futuristic society that has longevity, that isn't just like a dystopic pyramidal power structure or economic structure that's just the rich guy just stomping the little guys. Like, if you're a little guy and you can see that the rules are fair and stuff, you can sort of go, all right, I understand that, and I'm not just being oppressed, or I'm not just getting taken advantage of, or being made essentially like a debt slave or something. I think that it will make a wonderful society, and happy to be laying some foundations for that.
Beautiful. That is so inspiring. And like Krez was saying about bringing the knowledge, bringing the resource to all the people, where no matter where they may be, because like you also said, Todd, that human ingenuity within each person. So if everyone has the open-mindedness and the open heart to focus on how they can contribute, because they do have that faith in the system, like you just illustrated, then think about all the creativity, all the things that people will do to build up and to build better. So that is so beautiful. I love it. And you had said about layer 2. And I think for in the moment where we are in the world today, many people that have that initial interest in Bitcoin, they are familiar with this term of layer 2. And also, like you mentioned in your history in the scene, in the Bitcoin subreddit, the word scale was almost taboo. Well, it was taboo. You would get kicked out if you said the S word, as they say. So scaling is, as from our assumption in Bitcoin SV, innate to the Bitcoin protocol. It is built already able to scale for the world. And then that is what we understand in Bitcoin SV. So it has the bandwidth to support all the infrastructure of the world. And you're saying Dr. Wright, Craig, he has been giving the master class where he's talking about how this can be applied in the industries of today, accounting and business, and even the infrastructure of IPv6, the Web3, the internet with money and within it, the monetization. So my point here is to highlight this concept that it is scalable for the world. Whereas with layer 2, you said if there were any kind of a dystopian authoritarianism within the CBDC, it could most likely be on a private database on a layer 2. And that what we're talking about is different. We have the privacy with transparency of the Bitcoin blockchain, BSV, Bitcoin SV. So please, could you speak to that? You know, many people, they know about layer 2 solutions, and the wide-ranging popular assumption is that Bitcoin cannot scale as it is, and that you need a layer 2 in order to make these things work. So what do you think of that?
It's one of those things with words, you know, have been used not per their meaning. I think, like, for starters, I don't think like Bitcoin is the way it is so that it can scale. Like, scaling was the primacy, and the way the system is designed is so that it can achieve scale. Like, you don't choose that kind of, you don't choose the Merkle tree, you don't choose the scripting language like that, you don't, you know, use the UTXO system unless you want to be able to, you know, run that system in high performance mode with billions of transactions a second. Like the way the idiosyncrasies and stuff, like the using little endian can format or whatever, like notation or whatever. So it's easier. The computer can interpret a number faster if it's in little endian than in big endian. So a lot of the data fields in Bitcoin are in little endian, so that there's less latency when it's processing the number from its like registry, brings it in, okay, evaluates next. Like this, because otherwise it would have had to switch it around into little endian first. So just the fact that it makes it harder for the end user to use it so that the system can be more performant. I think that's like why Bitcoin is the way it is, to allow for that scale to start off with. Like, they didn't go, let's just make a friendly to use system and hope that it scales. It was like, no, let's make every consideration that's possible to scale this thing. And then that's what you get is Bitcoin. And then the layer, with regards to the layering, like, I don't know, probably need to bring up a dictionary or something, but the layering isn't, you know, an ancillary network that sits off on the side that has some occasional like checkpointed values in the main chain. So I said layer 2 just because that's what, you know, people are tossing out there. But the layering in a network stack becomes when you have the certain, like a data transmission generally conforms to a specific standard where whatever's interpreting that chunk of data will know those first bytes are this, those first bytes are that, you know, this is the header. And then within some of those fields, there's room to specify that this is a particular type of a transaction or a transmission or whatever. And so that becomes the nested layer within it, where you're like, okay, we run on that, stack that everyone runs on, but we've got a nested sort of layering of our communication and our specific protocol that we use for that, that sits inside, encapsulated within that overall data structure. So a second layer or something on Bitcoin would be like, the miners have the entirety of it, and then you overlay these network nodes on it that have a subset of the network that they use specific flags or version numbers as these identifiers that tell a recipient or the mining network how to handle that transaction. And that's basically a subset of the overall. So that's the way the layering works, is you nest them within. So maybe you use version number 40 or something to indicate that I'm going to process these type of transactions. But then within that world of the version 40, you might be able to nest something else where you've got multi-sig transactions and trusts or something else. And so those structures then are defined as subsets of version 40, and you keep going down, and you can kind of stipulate how to handle that specific thing. You don't just, it's not a layer to have some occasional attestations on the chain and then run a completely different paradigm where you don't have the consensus mechanism of a blockchain. You don't have the performance of a scalable blockchain. You don't have routing incentives. You don't have security incentives. So I don't know, it's a semantic kind of an argument and a technical argument, but it's everyone coming into it just says layer 2 or layer 3 or blah blah blah. But the enemy of performance and security is that like complexity boondoggle kind of approach. And when you've got like all those hacks and everything, they always come out of those cross-chain bridges, or you have to have a staked liquidity pool there that gives the ability for people to enter in and out, and you might need a market maker or something that sits on that liquidity pool. But as soon as people suss out what the market maker's doing, they can game it, or they can, they just have to have more money than's in the liquidity pool to, run shorts on it, manipulate it in some way. So I don't know. I think you can pretty much discard any talk of a layer being the solution to scaling, because you still have to resolve, unless you don't want to record all the data, you still have to record it some way. So what are you going to do? Wrap it all up in these, what are they called, roll-ups or something like that? But somewhere there's a loss of the record keeping to make X amount of transactional activity reduced down to that, to put it on there. So it's being lost somewhere. And I think that's the whole name of the game when these layers and stuff came about, was to basically take transactional activity off the chain, where they can, aggregate it, mix funds, mix activity, whatever else goes on there, obfuscate, their trail, because the blockchain records everything. They knew that. Like when I got into Bitcoin, like I can go back and find the Reddit post of the article of like Bitcoin in there, and you read the people, and they all had names like Bitcoin fan, Bitcoin user and stuff, but they were all really trying to say this anonymous angle, like. And then I go back and look through their posts, and some of those people don't post anymore, but they were just hell-bent on driving this like anonymous narrative And I think, you can sort of see other people in there trying to, from very early on, saying it needed to not keep the records that it kept, that's the problem about Bitcoin. So that faction has always been around, and they like the money, but they don't like the accountability side of things. So that's where, in my opinion, that's where the layer 2s come from. And people just get, when you press them about it and you ask them to explain it, they don't really have an understanding of how it's supposed to be more performant or better. They just kind of hand wave a few things away. Just is better, or it just doesn't matter if it has 20 hops. Like, it's better. And then when you kind of reveal they've got not much of an argument, then it sort of generally resorts to ideological sort of emphasis of, but it's more decentralized, or it can't be controlled, or something. And then when you try to break that down, generally you've sort of taken these lateral steps in argumentation that you've so far from the original thread that it's just a messy schmozzle of a conversation, and doesn't, it's not threading linearly anymore, and you kind of just give up. I went through that when I felt like incapable of building. I'd spent a fair bit of time on the social media, just like trying to make a reasoned plea for why that's logical argumentation, rationality, but then very quickly becomes not that, and it took me a long time to learn not to bother.
Me too. I know. In many things, but that's the thing I love about Bitcoin, is that it is an opportunity for everyone to learn. And when you listen to folks that are in different camps, let's say, there's always something you can learn, and we are continuously learning. It's a constant challenge to educate ourselves. So that's why what you're doing with the Academy is so wonderful, because it's that resource where people want to study and learn and get the fundamentals and apply them in their own career, their own life. So it's very exciting, and we're thankful to you, Todd. And also, you have the experience, the wisdom of experience here with your journey over the years. And it's very valuable because you have that insight as to what did occur. Now, I would like to ask you maybe a bit of a controversial question.
Go ahead.
So nowadays we have this event that is very gaining more and more attention every day, and that is the ordinals. So the ordinals have written some inscriptions on the Bitcoin blockchain as far as the BTC protocol is concerned. So they also are on BSV, I believe, as well, the one sat ordinals. So with the ordinal inscriptions on BTC, a lot of folks have gained enthusiasm that were in the, they call them Bitcoin Maxi Laser Eyes scene. So those folks have become excited, many of them, about the ordinals and the ability to inscribe on chain, they say, on chain scaling. It's this concept of the data being on the protocol itself. So like when you described what layering is, layering, it sounds like it's baked within. All of these layers are deliciously together, whereas layer 2, as is popularly known, is kind of just plopped on top and like a little bit, but a lot is lost. So with ordinals, this is happening now, where it's within the protocol. And I've been listening to a lot of folks that do one sat ordinals, and even these laser-eyed people on Twitter, they have the laser eye picture, which I do think is just a tease on Satoshi's vision. I think they're like trying to troll us with that, but that's just my own feeling about it. Anyway, my point here is to say, do you think that this will lead to the BTC blockchain expanding their block size, or a possible split? We've heard Joshua Hensley talk about this recently.
I think, like, fundamentally, the Bitcoin core repository has been sort of taken under like a coup d'etat, and the interests that maintain that have a pretty tight grip on things, and I think they have a pretty firm idea of what they want for that system. And I don't think that what they want is for blocks to get bigger and for people to be using it in that way. Like you saw a fair bit of screeching and stuff from some of that original I don't know, I'll just call them like saboteurs or something. They don't want it to be that way. So you may see a split in the community or whatever, where a voice becomes very loud for it to to scale in somewhat. But I think that I just don't think they have the processes for any kind of organic sentiment to actually be reflected in the way the protocol is going to be modified. I think that it just has these points where, regardless of how many people are saying that it should change, the way that the commits are incorporated, it sort of can't get past there. And it'd be interesting to see how some of these arguments that people have made over the years about if Luke's going to make the block size 300 kilobytes, we'll just we'll fork off with our nodes. We won't relay any transactions, and it'll cause a problem and blah blah blah. I don't think any of those strategies, war games or whatever, are really that well thought out, and I don't see it happening. I think that there's a lot of people in BTC land that are, they came along, maybe they made some money, and then they feel good about having made some money, so then they think they know a bunch about it, but they're not really that. They're sort of like very vocal, but their conviction isn't that deep. And when the chain doesn't get scaled to accommodate for their ordinals, then I don't know, they'll probably just go, oh, I'll go to ETH then, and a number of those might come to BSV and start paying attention. But I don't know. It's interesting just seeing how people use technology and the enthusiasm, but when you don't see anyone going, oh, we've solved a huge problem with these ordinals. The validation of the ordinals is the number on the market capitalization on whatever BRC20 or whatever they are, the Audis or something. So it's just the same old metrics, which are just easy to game. We saw it with the ICOs. We saw it with the NFTs. Like, people can make the price of an object, a data object, go up by trading it to themselves. It basically all they're paying is the transaction fees to inflate the price of this thing, which then creates this, they're hoping it creates a hype cycle. But that's like in my mind, that's a a generous assessment that it's simply just people, trying to maximize some profit through, gamifying that market. But I am probably more of the opinion that it's just another avenue for illicit gained money to be washed and funds to be mixed with naive retail investors who have, a story sold to them. And so they go, oh, I better get in on this. And then they provide the, the mixing for the funds that are, proceeds of dodgy stuff. There's, I don't have a source for it, but I think I've heard it a number of times. But like the biggest markets in the world are like oil, guns, and people. And so you're driving around and you see a petrol station like everywhere. Oh yeah. So you realize, everyone's driving the petrol and that's making the world go around. And you're like, well, okay, so there's an equally big market here for weapons moving around, and there's an equally as big economic market of people being bought and sold. And there's, the net's closing around some of the avenues. There's I've been sort of learning a bit about, the various corporate structures and stuff that allow for ill-gotten gains to move around, and, the different locations in the world that happens. And, I think the crypto market is definitely very intimately related with some of those dodgy markets. And, when I was, looking at some of those other ones in 2017 or so, this one looks good. Yeah, I'm into it. And then the lead developers or something are writing like pedo fan fiction or something like that, or making Twitter arguments for the, about the trying to justify the possession of child pornography. And that, whenever I just encounter that, I'm like, oh, another one, got to get out of this one, sell whatever it was and be like, I don't want anything to do with these people. But you lift up another rock and they're there again. And so when, you see another, that the Bored Ape stuff, when you go and look into there was a whole lot of embedded, deeper context with the Bored Ape Yacht Club. There was, a lot of like sort of 4chan Nazi wolf whistling and stuff in there, like the the uniforms, the like insignias, there was like coded messages, and you could go through it and you sort of get led on this journey, and you realize, oh, there's definitely layers to the what's being presented to the public, but there's definitely a lot of black market stuff going on. And until the Audis are being used for something that actually, when you're tracking a Coke can with your ordinal, which maybe that's interesting, but like just because $1 billion came into it in a week's time, I don't care. Like I've seen those vertical charts go up, go down. I've seen the people that pile in that, get dumped on. Then I've seen them stop working. I don't know. I'm not really excited by it or anything,
That's a great insight.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of it like that. So thank you.
It's I like seeing people, tinker with the tech. That's cool. But, I don't think it's worthy of feeling threatened in our position that they're going to, take the cake now because they got inscriptions on there. Like, can they do, rapid fire content delivery? Can they do jumbo packets of 4.3 gigabytes being passed around in multicast groups? Like they have none of that, consideration there. There's like, yeah, wow, we can write a number on the the base protocol and flick these tokens around. It's like, oh, cool.
It's like patty cakes, at that
Yeah.
level compared to
Yeah.
what BSV is doing.
Yeah, like we're working with IEEE, and they're going, oh, as soon as we just roll out these couple of little things, it's game over for the rest of them. And you can see that, and you can see the way that the real world's moving on, and everyone's going to have a better world because of it in the future. But in the meantime, they're going to be screeching and carrying on anything but BSV for another period of time or whatever. But that's I don't know how many people from, say, one of your 7,500 islands, Chris, is getting excited about the ordinals, or I don't know how many people in the the NITDA program we're running in Nigeria are like getting excited. But I think it purely comes through on those the crypto bro, or the people who have the luxury to speculate and get dumped on in the market. They're the ones who are touting it as being something, but the world's moving on, and the I don't know, a deeply embedded like synergy between IPv6 and Bitcoin is going to make a far greater difference for the people in remote Philippines or in Africa or in India or whatever than being able to sequentially inscribe a tokenized representation of something on BTC. It's like maybe it's a little bit of a redemption for BTC that some people have tinkered with it and figured something out, but it's like putting a turbocharger on your like 1930s Ford when you're racing against a McLaren or something.
Very good. So this is another tricky question. I have heard this. What if BSV were the test net for Bitcoin? What do you think of that?
Like who have you heard that from? I don't know if I should just like
I think, well, I've not even heard it.
Or am I like, should I?
In passing, I've heard it, and I thought, oh my goodness, what would we all do? We've all been here in BSV. But what if it were to expand on BTC? What if no matter how much the saboteurs tried, we're proving what the utility of it is? I mean, is that possible?
How many script codes are enabled in BTC? Like there's the 186 opcodes we have. I think they've got like a dozen or something. So what are they going to? Is Adam Back going to hard fork BTC and enable all those opcodes, or is like how do they roll back all the transactions that have occurred on SegWit? Like the chain of digital signatures is broken on BTC. It doesn't when you've got a transaction as a data structure, and it's you want to be able to pass the transaction, interpret the different fields, and now you've got this like, oh yeah, we're just going to chuck that witness data up somewhere else in another data structure. It doesn't work the same, and it doesn't it's like it's sort of already sealed its fate there, I think. And
so that ship has passed.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I don't lose any sleep whatsoever about like BTC just eating our lunch one day. Obviously, people make an argument of price or market size or something like that, but I don't even. Probably goes, once a month I maybe check the price of BSV, and then just carry on doing what I'm doing, and then check it, and you're like, oh, lost another 30%. Whatever. Like, I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at, trying to let people understand it, and analyzing, okay, what needs to be made, what needs to be brought into existence for people to appreciate this at a depth similar to myself, or a bunch of other people that I have a working relationship with and stuff. And I think with anything, it's always education. It's such a fundamental upwards mobility vehicle that that's maybe I'd be more worried if I wasn't in if I felt more powerless or something like that. But working in education, you're kind of like, okay, just more inspiration to make content, to make the tools, to deliver programs. We're working with, they put the feelers out to, I think, 100,000 students in Nigeria, but we ended up having about 30,000 that did the first phase of the blockchain innovation program. And I'm not sure what was retained, because they progressed through the academy courses, and they had some other material delivered and that, but it was many thousands have now done several of our courses. And then you see those crew filter into like their script chat, Telegram, and then you see them offering advice to other people having problems, and you're like, okay, there's some really great talent out there that have an incentive to really sink their teeth into it, and they see it as like, oh, we're super grateful to have this opportunity to learn this material, and they know the problems of their society. They're the best suited to come up with the solutions and stuff. So that happened in the last few months, but 30,000 people developing a network in their own cultural context of how to use that tools. When they come up with a little hacky kind of a thing that can be done on it, who knows, you might see a huge explosion of monetized microgrids or something like that, or monetized mobile phone credit sharing, or like that's where I'm excited, seeing people sort of tinker with it and use it in ways that you hadn't quite thought, but they only get there through being educated in how to play with it a little bit to begin with, but
that's exciting. So this is we're here and we're onwards, we say. Onwards and upwards, right?
Yeah. And I'm really excited. I've just I started tinkering with ChatGPT, and because I said, okay, this is a tool we've needed for ages, is really how to build transactions on the blockchain. So, there's various, you can go somewhere and see how to build a transaction, but you can't really build them, or you can't deploy those kind of things en masse, because you've got to provide, spendable transaction outputs which have funds locked in them. And so your material needs to continually, you can't just say, here's a key, use this and do it, because as soon as it's available, it gets exploited and someone will use that key, and then you can't use that same example any longer. So there's a bit of a problem. So then a lot of people say, okay, we'll use testnet coins, but you've still got to go through the problem of getting testnet coins before you can write testnet actions. So then you've got a reg test network, which is basically like an isolated node, or a node within a controlled environment that, allows it to circumvent. There's some hard-coded changes in it that allows it to circumvent basically the consensus mechanism if it's a single node, or the difficulty parameter in mining blocks. So I think like they must have a difficulty target that's basically 0. So the first hash that you do of a block is a successfully mined block, but allows you to experiment with it. So then I said, okay, what can I do with this ChatGPT? and I got it to build me out, the transaction data structure as a form. And I'm like, all right, cool. So now I've got this like form. I can sort of explain it a bit better what I want to exist. I can, maybe we can recruit some of the students from the Nigerian cohort to build them. We could put a bounty on it or something. And then I just started tinkering with it a bit more and said, okay, I'm going to set up this reg test node. It took me a little while, and I finally, got that running. And then I'm like, how can I connect these things? And it said, oh, okay, you probably need to build a Golang backend, like a backend. These are the languages you should choose. And then I just sort of kept at it, and today I got to the point where I've got a reg test node that is running in Docker, and then I've got a Golang backend and the form field on my web server, and you can press create key pair. So then you generate a private key from the reg test node, and then you can derive your public key from that and your address. And then you can mine blocks against that address and the private key. So then you get a bunch of blocks that you mined. Because of the Coinbase maturity rule, you can only mine them after they've 100 deep. So you mine 110, you get 10 spendable transaction outputs. And then you go through and you build the transaction, version, input count. Okay, how can I dynamically adjust the amount of input data structures, in form version of that? So, the bot helps me along there. And then you're like, all right, I've got all that value now. Concatenate that together. So there's my raw transaction. Okay, now we've got to create the SIG hash pre-images. Like, what's this? I'm chatting with the bot, trying to figure it all out. All right, now I've made my pre-images. Okay, so you're making different pre-images for all these things. All right, okay, we've got the SIG hash template, so you can look how to populate the different data fields depending upon the SIG hash flag. All right. And then I got to the point today where I've successfully managed to be able to sign the SIG hash, or, you hash the pre-image, then you sign the SIG hash. So from now on, it's, just a couple more little things I got to do, and you'll be able to build your own transactions in this sort of like transaction playground thing. And I think that is going to be pretty useful because people can just tinker around and they can see the whole way through. Because I was really struggling to find the information that explains that all out. It's not even really like the data structure for the SIG hash pre-images. I couldn't really even find where that was, and it's just buried in like a GitHub repo as a little comment there. Like we don't cover it in our course. It's not really covered in the wiki. So that material just was not there. But once you bring it out and people can experiment with it and tinker, now I feel like I understand the whole process a lot more. And then Brendan Lee's just finished our Introduction to Bitcoin script course, which is going to be coming out in the next couple of months. But you look at that, and before you're trying to read it against these, there's not really any of these transactional playground sort of things or toolings or toys. But now you go, oh, cool, I can actually try some of these scripts and build these custom transactions and have an environment where I can then prescribe exercises and assessment questions and stuff through that environment. So I'm pretty excited about that, and I think that the potential is there's a lot of extensibility to it. The key pair that you generate, I want to look into the IPv6 workflow there, and then as we develop that workflow, the using the chat GPT is really useful as well. So you're documenting that workflow as you're going along, and you're building up this repository of documentation. And then I just jumped us into this AI chat here, if you're all right with that. But
beautiful.
there's ways then that you can use a whole bunch of the tooling that's out there to, look into that documentation pool and give more meaningful answers than can be provided just simply by the GPT, like the LLM itself. So you've got these agents and these toolings that can then look into your documentation stuff, see the specific material, reference it against, the instructions for how to use that transaction playground, and then people can start to work with this. The bot, it has some awareness about VSV and stuff, but I encountered many times where it has these sort of assumptions that are invalid. You can correct them and bring it back onto the right track, but as you're going through the discussion, the context seems to fade away a little bit, and you've got to keep impressing and restating the same corrections so that it gets back onto the track you want it to. But once you have a whole source of material out there, you can start to use, you can use the rudimentary LLMs like the 3.5 instead of the 4, and just use that natural language processing, but set up these agents and stuff that sit in between that LLM and the documentation source, and you can provide clues in that those agents say, if someone asks about Bitcoin script and how to create a multi-sig transaction, refer to this page, and then it kind of passes that whole page and then it brings it back out through natural language, to give people access to it. So I think that there's just a few little things that need to be overcome, and some documentation that needs to be populated, and then we can get into this period where 3.5 is free to use, essentially, but you might be, if you're running it through the sort of an API environment with the access keys, you're paying a small amount in some tokens, but the BA might find that it's a good use of money to fund, to bankroll that the use of those tokens for everyone to come and have access to a chatbot that can navigate through specific technical details of Bitcoin content and assist them in creating meaningful solutions for their problem, because that whole transaction workflow is explained, and there's a context where they can experiment and debug them and things. Then people can, Shaway built the compiler for TypeScript down to Bitcoin script, but other guys have built similar things. Like I'm not totally sure what it is with what is it called? Is it Baguette or something? There's a Lisp compiler, I think, which is a sort of an AI, an old school language that was used extensively for AI and really interesting use cases. But as you have that ability to provide the analogs from a popular language into Bitcoin script, and how to sort of overlay those functions and things into Bitcoin script, then we're sort of up and away, and people can tinker with it, and you can, we can reach out when we've got clear documentation and stuff. We can reach out as well into other communities, so like robotics, Arduinos and that sort of IoT things, and these people can understand, that's how we can write these low-level language functions, and we can use it as this control system for all those devices at the edge. And like I've never seen an argument for BTC being used in IoT. And what are they're saying, like 100 billion sensors are going to come online in the next few years. So like, why would you be worried that BRC20 went to $1 billion market cap very quickly on dodgy bucket shop exchanges, when that you've got the the goods to let those 100 billion devices securely have a place on a IPv6 internet and securely transmit data for all manner of sort of control systems that isn't going to be able to be interfered with, that can be logged, that can, enhance our record keeping, our, the integrity of all our, the data that's gathered all throughout society. Like a lot of, similar to what you asked before, Chris, like a lot of people that I sort of share that passion with, then I go and tell them, and they're worried about IoT, and they're worried about smart cities and stuff. And I get it. I don't like the idea of a dystopic smart city, but I'm pretty like enthusiastic about the idea of technology penetrating to the edge and making our lives easier. Like
they are all worried.
Yes,
they are always worried.
Yeah, I think they're just worried about what's they're spreading.
That's true. And one thing that I did learn from watching Joshua Hensley is that a lot of the liquidity, or actually, I guess, the liquidity of the BRC20 ordinals market, it happened natively on Bitcoin. So it was all through Bitcoin that there was the liquidity. It wasn't really from buying on an exchange. So he was excited about it from the economics perspective of, this is something natively happening that isn't using a fiat to entry point. So he felt very passionate about that. But I see what you're saying. I mean, this is the, ready to rip for the world. Bitcoin is the BSV blockchain, and it has the bandwidth to start applying all of what you've explained. And Todd, you are a brilliant storyteller of technology. It's easy for me to comprehend what you're saying. Even though I don't have a computer science degree, I can visualize the concepts that you're talking about. So I really love this. And I know that, I have a cousin that is into coding and even works in coding. And when I've interviewed guests that have the coding background, he'll say, please ask them more details. I want to learn more. It's not easy with just one brief explanation. And you have illustrated these concepts, these technical concepts, in a way that can be seen. So I'm excited. I know this is very long form, but I would love to share our moment in all the full length. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm easy.
Yes, and I'm thinking you might be good to have a kind of exclusive club where you will be there and meet with people. You and possibly your colleagues and Krez could be together. So people that do complete the course can have a kind of regular meetup with the folks that have completed the course. And in that way they can share their experience, or just, you could do some fun games, maybe give a demo of the transaction playground that you made using ChatGPT, things like this. It might be fun for you to be interactive.
Yeah, definitely lots of good ideas. We've had we want to create kind of like an alumni for the graduates of the courses, and tie that into sort of like a job boards, but as well as a social kind of thing, and just a network so people can, because the Bitcoin BSV space is still small enough that you can meet a lot of people, but it's moving away, and if you came in now, you might feel that some of the superstars are a bit exclusive or something. So it'd be nice to create a middle ground where once you've completed the courses and you've got a pretty solid understanding of it all, that where you can come and talk to other people but you don't feel a bit shy if you have a question you might feel is a bit elementary or something. And I like building up other people to answer the questions and stuff as well. Like it makes me happy when you see, just a peer who's also done things jump in and give the other people answers, and they get to interact and I don't know, potentially flourish into a relationship or networking, or just collegial kind of friendship. So that I'm definitely down for more of that sort of thing in the space, and more connections, and make the small world network smaller and tighter, less hops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how did you sort of envision that when you were saying to have the kind of club or something? Is that something that you have an idea of how to I don't know,
Yes.
what
Well, I
experience
think
to run that or something, or
because sure, I'm happy to. Now, I'm not involved though. I'm not, in the academy, but I do love that, and I need to actually complete the course myself.
yeah, you do.
So that's first things
I wish
first.
everyone in the space would complete them. You go
Yes.
and you look in, you're like, because you can look on the back end and you can say, where are all these people doing things? And you hear sometimes they'll jump up and they'll say something, it's not quite right, and you're like, oh, you should do the course. You'd learn about that. You could make a definitive statement there.
Right.
I think that add immense value to everyone in the space, and it definitely would give you that confidence to sort of toss your hat in the ring a bit, and share your ideas without thinking that they're just going to be scoffed at, or not that I don't care what anyone comes out with a question or an idea. Like, I'm not going to scoff at them, but you can definitely feel inadequate or intimidated to engage with some of the the gurus.
Right. And
Yeah.
there are so many gurus in the world. There's
Yeah.
so many brilliant folks. And I think that if you have an event where people can gather and get to know each other, that's always making the cake. It's the people. So all you do is provide a space, and then people come together and interact. And then we all learn and grow from each other from that interaction. And I know that if there were some fun thing happening, such as what Krez and George have led with the BA workshops. That is so wonderful. And the chance to have been there and to have met you, and to have also met Ty and be there with May, that was so special. And I felt so happy to have that experience at the workshop and to feel welcome to participate. I think that was wonderful. So I think if you have this kind of meeting for those alumni of the courses, and how fantastic. I know Becky Legiro completed the intro course. She was one of the first.
Awesome.
So can you imagine you take the course and then you're there and you get to meet Becky Legiro?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, how fun. Yeah. Yeah,
We're
I think
collecting those people, right?
yeah,
Should I create
yeah.
those who finished the courses? Should I collect the list of the people who finished the courses?
Yeah, sure, we can.
That would be fun. But I cannot promise. But let's see what we're gonna come up with.
Yeah, but I think
a
Chris
little meetup.
the right people for the job. You've got that lovely warm nature, and you seem to be expert at bringing people together and making them feel like they're your dear friend immediately, which very nice. And George has a incredible talent with that as well, of just facilitating and not feeling shy to jump in there to bring things together, and then it does, and it pays off, and you're like, oh, I just would never think to put myself out there like that. but he does it and is a consummate professional at it. Yeah, so it's been great to put them on. And I think that the reception from the attendees and just the general sentiment towards them was really positive. So they I definitely think would continue doing them and keep up that engagement with the society, the people that make it up, that want to do things. There's definitely no shortage of people that are enthusiastic and just sort of it gets filtered down almost through a few levels, because if you just came into the space now, you wouldn't quite know where to get the best information and who are the weapons at it. But then you have the intermediary people that sort of I can ping Brendan on Telegram and get any answer to questions I have, and he's really generous with his knowledge and shares it. And I feel super grateful and privileged to have worked intimately with him in the academy for a couple of years before he's gone off to fully pursue ELAS. But other people coming in, he might just seem in the exclusive tier, and you don't know how to strike it up. But if we're in those community spaces, we can definitely get questions answered and get a critical eye cast over some ideas and stuff that have evolved through it.
Definitely. And we can grow more businesses. So Brendan has grown ELAS. I know Lise Lee has grown her business. There's so many entrepreneurs in the space.
Yeah.
So more that we interact and we learn, how can I best serve here, my fellows here, then we can even grow more businesses within the ecosystem. Yeah. I just saw Ty from Babbage, the founder that we met, or we worked together with in the small group at BA workshop on ChatGPT that Krez hosted. I saw him call to action all of us to be more professional just yesterday and to reach out, solve problems, and to go for it. It was like raw, after watching his video. So I think, yes, the more that we interact, then the better we can be at delivering.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting people face to face in London and developing that, just breaking that ice a lot, because it's a bit tricky digitally to sort of. It's funny you watch, so I watch Josh's videos and you feel his like mannerisms and his characters and stuff, but then you want to go and talk to him and make some jokes and stuff, but then he has no idea who you are, so you just walk up and you're like, hey man, how's the new house and how's your new how's your baby? And like,
I know, it's so true. Walker? Like, he's from my we're from the same metro area, so we've had meetings together in person.
Oh, cool.
And so I feel like very familiar with him, but when I watch him on the video, then I think, oh, I want to talk to him about duck eggs now.
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Being sold in BSV, duck eggs, right? Yes. Being sold through BSV. Yeah, I think I watched that video too.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very simple use case, right? Why not? Saying why not? Yeah. And the item about meeting people like in person and also bringing people together in person in a wide, like a flagship event of the BitcoinSV or the technology, it's a big deal, because in that way, you're right, Todd, those mannerisms, how they speak, how they react to it, you're gonna see it live. And it validates what you think about that person. That's not in a judgmental way, but it validates that we are interacting with real people, and that's a big deal. And being the feeling of being included in the ecosystem is a big deal, especially when you are just starting. Like, we've been in that stage, Rory, right? Like, we want to be in the space, but nobody allows us to do it because they don't care, because we're just Krez and Rory. And now we find our way, and we connect with different people as well in the space that feels the same, and we became more strong, we became more powerful in that sense, and stronger, right? So if those people out there are trying to be in the BSB ecosystem and feeling the same way, we're telling you guys, all people in the BSB are calm and very approachable, so it's up to you guys. Just be in the moment. enjoy enjoy the time with the BSB Academy people and BSB people in the ecosystem, and you'll see it for yourself how great it is to be in the ecosystem. So join us at the London Blockchain Conference, either physically or virtually, right? So you would see the different use cases, the different faces, the different personalities of people we have in the ecosystem, and you can find some jobs that the same that you do right now that actually in the BSB space, and right away, instantly, right, you can think of, oh, I can use blockchain actually in this use case, right, in this to solve this problem in my country, maybe in my community, in the society. So actually that's how I started. I watched the virtual event in Dubai that was also May last year. I stayed 5 hours on screen. I literally put that on our smart TV, and the people at home were like, Cress, what are you watching? Can we switch it off, or can you please turn it to Netflix, or Disney Plus, please? And I was like, no, because I cannot. I'm using my two laptops, and I need to use my screen, but I need to see who are talking. I don't want to be like a podcast, because I am identifying who is talking on the screen, and I want to meet them. Like those different use cases that they see and they speak about it. I want to see the expression, their gesture. I want to be there, even though I'm virtually just watching them, but I want to feel them. And along the way, as I connect with them after the event, I talk to them. Now I'm confessing, right? And able to find them in space and work with them, like Todd, Yvonne, these guys. It's so amazing. It starts with the excitement. It starts with idea. And then you draw a map, and then step by step, you do something to achieve it. And now here we are gathered in this screen from different parts of the world, but we're connected, and we're looking forward to see each other at the London Blockchain Conference. So see, the journey, the journey. So we encourage everyone to start taking a step. Don't hold back. There's no upside in holding back. I'm telling you guys. So just
join in.
You like put your toe in the water, and then you're swimming very quickly. Like there's so much opportunity.
In the water.
Really inviting, and there's a lot of cross pollination as well. Like as soon as someone realizes, because there's a massive shortage of talent. And, not just developers, but, you guys with Women of the BSB have done an awesome job of, demonstrating that there's, heaps of value to be created from people that aren't, creating transactions, that aren't,
yes, yes, I think so. Now, when I went to London 2020 CoinGeek, it was at great risk to me personally. I wasn't prepared to go. I just had this sense I must go all of a sudden. So I bought my ticket, I reserved a hotel, and I just went. And it was there because I had been listening online to Shem and Satoshi's show, the Bitcoin SV show, that I had gotten invited to some meetups that Shem was hosting, because I reached out to him. I said, hi, can I come to your meetups? I'm coming to London. So he included me. And at those meetups in London, I met the most amazing people. I met developers. I met Joshua Hensley there for the first time. I met so many fascinating folks. I met David Case there. I met a lot of people in person at those meetups that Shem had hosted. And then I went to the conference and I met Daniel Krowitz. I met Satoshi. I met so many amazing folks, people from Lament and just all sorts. Oh, I met Ryan X. Charles. It was so exciting to meet everyone in person and to see them and to see what they were like and to trust the integrity of their character. So after that, I had met them in person. So they knew I was not just some fictitious icon on the internet. I'm a real person.
Yeah.
So then they invited me in to meet Diddy and Ruth. And then they led the Women of BSV. And for that whole year of those podcasts, we had the wonderful privilege to meet all of these people, amazing folks, building in the ecosystem, building in the world of industry.
Yeah.
So it was just fantastic. And then now I've followed my ONA challenge through George Sios Samuels. He had the ONA app where you honor your goals. And I put down on the app, I will produce 2 podcasts per month as my goal. And I did that through, I believe, 6 months. It was a 6 months goal. And I completed it and I carry it on to this day. And I just do it on paper to carry on this goal. And look at all that's come from it. So this time I planned ahead. I said, I will be at the next conference. And I prepared this time. And so now we're going to be together. And hopefully we could even do a show together from London. Would you be interested?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yes. Okay, fantastic.
That would be fun. That would be exciting because, impromptu question, whatever you see, you the expression of the people, they will see the authenticity. We are real people here. We're not bot. Todd is not a bot. Now you know, guys. Todd is not an AI. He is a real person creating all the content and learning materials at the BSV.Academy. So he is not an AI. You see, and when we meet personally, like it will be 100% awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. And I think I've had I gone, you said you met all those people and it was warm and inviting, but I feel like if I went a couple of years ago, I would have been, just walking around, feeling a bit lonely or something. But now I think I have enough rapport with people that I can, have plenty of people to chat to and have a.
I need
awesome
to
time.
space my phone
What's that?
for photos. I need to free space my phone.
Oh, yeah, right.
Good point.
Yeah.
Well, I understand you two powerhouses, you have an internal call soon.
Yeah.
Sorry to spill the beans here, but I am grateful to you both for taking your time to be in the moment with me. And I learned so much from you, Todd. So I look forward to us being in a moment together in London at the LBC, London Blockchain Conference.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been great. I think it's my first interview in the BSV world, so it's been fun. Yeah, you popped my cherry.
Oh, I'm so proud. Thank you.
This is
absolutely awesome. You're brilliant, Todd. So the first of many to come, I'm sure.
Oh, cool. Sure. Yeah, it should be. Yeah. At least we'll do another show at the LBC.
Right? Okay. Onwards and upwards. Here we come.
Yeah.
So thank you to our audience. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, be in the moment, and also look forward to some specials on Real World Podcasts. So we will upload this to the Real World Podcast, and you can watch it with BSV.
Hey, cool.
Welcome back soon. Yes, thank you. And thank you, Craig, for your leadership and your guidance. Thank you.
Yeah, cheers.
Thank you, Todd and Rory.
Yeah, cheers. I'll see you.
I'm always having fun being in the moment.
Yes.
Me too.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.